Ah, new home, a new beginning. I always wondered though, why is your renting so cheap? Oh, gas leaks and crime rates, I see. I didn't want to say it, but this town does kinda suck. Wait a second. What's that in your room? Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel where today we will be diving into Welcome to Kowloon, an indie horror game released in 2023 that was labelled as the game with one of the scariest jump scares by many people. I was so scared of playing this game, and I was right to be terrified since the jump scares I will show you now.
What was she showering in there? Oh, frames, there's another one. Turn on the lights. Well, I mean, it's one of the worst places.
Was the worst I had ever faced, and I can't wait to see if I can top that in the future. We're going to do a BART on this, meaning breakdown, analyse, review and theorise, so if you enjoyed this video today and want to see more videos like this in the future, make sure to like, subscribe and join me on Twitch where I stream a plethora of games, all to fulfill your content cravings. Let's begin! Welcome to Kowloon is a game set in a Chinese city called Kowloon, kinda self-explanatory from the title, but anyways, you're a young student simply looking for some cheap accommodation and Kowloon is as cheap as it gets, so you take the first chance you get sharing a room and make your way into the centre of the town. You walk through to see a large amount of neglect for this town, with the town being devoid of pretty much anything, even human life. You do get to meet a sweet little doggy though, and this is one of those rare instances that the dog doesn't die, and you can even feed the dog, so good on the devs. You make your way through this wastelandish apartment where you finally reach your floor and room, and the rest goes from there, where you explore the town with all the horrors that it is holding within. The entire breakdown of the story will be in a story section of this video, so if you want to see the full game broken down, the timestamps will show you where. The game is a walking simulator with some extra added pieces to the game to make it a little bit more interactive with various tasks you have to complete, and the game itself is packed with some of the most potent punches, as well as some great story and some even better theories to be crafted. So, let's get on with it. We start off with the visuals. The visuals are brilliant, really capturing the feel of a neglected Chinese city in the dead of night. You have different parts of the game that really settle you down, such as the lighting at the beginning of the game where things feel more safe and homely, such as the shop and your apartment flat that you're living in. But when things begin to turn, they really lock in with that lighting being dark and dull, the visuals slowly degrading into a more horror vibe, and altogether making an unsettling piece of art. Now, these visuals are nowhere near the level of what we're heading towards nowadays, but at the same time, the visuals can be appreciated for their near-realistic look, even when it comes to bodies, humanoids, and even down to the smaller details such as plants. Overall, the visuals suit the environments to a T, and the only way to improve on them would literally have to be making them even more realistic, which just isn't needed here. Now onto the sound. The sound design is subtle at times and incredibly loud at others. Some noises might be a little too loud, sometimes coming off as a little clunky instead, but most of the time the sound suits the situation and atmosphere with all the small creaks, taps and ambience needed to set the tone. Throughout the game you have this sort of subtle ambience in the background, becoming less subtle in the more risky and dangerous circumstances. If you are in your rented apartment after you find a note in your room talking about how Granny has gone sicko mode, and whoever lives here in the past has become a hermit, then the ambience slowly starts to increase in volume and intensity, setting a brilliant mood and creates a lot of suspense and tension. There was one moment in the audio that I believe didn't really match all too well with the rest of the audio in the game, and that's the Granny scream, but even still, it doesn't take away from the overall scare of the scream itself, and for your entertainment, here is that scream.
What was she showering in there?
After that lovely jump scare, we move on to gameplay. The gameplay, like I said earlier in the overview, is a walking simulator with added steps. You walk around the complex, you discover different things and complete different tasks. There are set positions for different jump scares, and it all combines together into a well-rounded horror game. Most of the time I was sat there praying I didn't get jump scared, to the point where when I did, I felt every ounce of it, and even got winded when Granny pounced on me and put me to bed like the WWE. The added steps I mentioned was a few smaller tasks, such as collecting a lever for an engine, getting the lever from a vending machine, and even a little lore dump with finding clues to find a child's secret hideout. Adding all these small sections in really helps keep the player engaged, and also helps to push the story along in a fun and creative way instead of just walking or being chased by something. The jump scares are impactful, the small tasks on the side are fun and adds to the game's story and sometimes fear factor, and overall makes for a great experience when playing. Buckle your seatbelts, because we're in for a long and bumpy ride at this point, because it's time to move on to the story. We start off as a young student looking for some cheap housing because education costs a lot and gets you into a lot of debt. Help me. We decide to take our stay in a small town of Kowloon, where crime rates are high, neglect is visible wherever you look, pests reign king, and Granny wants to chokeslam you. Oh, sorry, we skipped too far. We walk through the narrow streets, seeing a small shop, some courtyards, and our apartment block, where we climb the stairs, meet a poor little doggy, and make it to our room. Unfortunately, we don't have the key, so we have to make our way back down to the small shop outside, where we grab some food for the dog and the key. We get back to the apartment and enter our flat to make a cup of tea and go to bed. A true British tradition. Nothing like a hot cup of tea to calm the nerves. Our restful slumber, however, is postponed by a small note we find telling us that Grandma has gone sicko mode and has the previous renter trapped from leaving. So our first thought is, let's leave, only to find the door is locked. We knock on Granny's door and she writes us a passive-aggressive note forbidding us from leaving. And if a potentially insane old woman wrote me a passive-aggressive note forbidding me from leaving, I would definitely want to leave immediately and not, I don't know, call the police. So we explore only to hear that Granny is showering and her room is mildly cracked open. So we open it to see, oh god. Well, I guess you could say that she has a certain Jack the Ripper taste in decor. We find a key and go to unlock the door to discover it is the wrong key, and Granny has mysteriously stopped showering and disappeared from the bathroom. So we open the bathroom door to find out what happened to the last inhabitants to this slaughterhouse. Shocked, we exit only to be Hadoukened by a beam of Granny, who kindly put us to bed and tucked us in. I lied, we're on the floor with the cockroaches. We get up and exit through the balcony to find ourselves in the neighbour's apartment, so we were assaulted and now we break into another person's house. Luckily there's no police and there's no one living here apart from Granny. She probably killed them all to decorate. We explore the neighbour's house, find a code on the back of these paintings. Oh, and this.
Photo frames, there's another one.
Yeah, my PC literally crashed after that one. We go into the room with a code lock and find a crowbar, and no, we don't get to crack it over Granny's head. We escape the neighbour's house with the crowbar and make it back to the stairs when... What in the fuck is this?
There's no way out. Okay, yeah, great. You successfully eluded the pursuit.
Yep, we got chased by a load of grey, dead, naked people. A normal day in England, if you ask me. We have this happen... And once again, we wake up on the floor and traverse to the next section where we need to find something to get the conveniently placed lever out of the conveniently placed vending machine. Yeah. So we go and try to find the lever for an elevator and gasoline for the engine to the elevator, which leads us to a little treasure hunt in the courtyard. We find a series of notes telling us to go to a rock by the swing set, a red fridge that has definitely got nothing inside it, wink wink hint hint, and then to go and look under the large cloth in the courtyard to find a small den that a child hid in to hide themselves from the horrors of Kowloon. We then get a coin from this hideout and the lever for the elevator, but we have no gasoline in the engine yet, so we go to a different place to get the gasoline and face a daunting task of turning on the generator and not getting scared the life out of me, which went rather smoothly.
Turn on the lights.
The elevator takes us up to a chilled scene on the roof which helps to calm the nerves with some smooth music and a beautiful view, but all good things come to an end when we go back down. But we do get bolt cutters. We make it back down to be greeted by Buster, who...
Doggy! Yay! Oh, your eyes are fucking horrible! You look disgusting! Oh, he looks a bit derpy there. Aw. At the same time, those eyes are horrifying.
Yeah. But anyways, we make it to a desolate alleyway and begin to walk through, seeing all of the horrific sights this place has to offer, with many people either being dead or dying, and other people just whacking their heads off of walls, or just standing there blankly. But we finally escape. We sprint to our car and drive off, leaving Kowloon in the dust. But, as a little backstory, at home, we are watching the TV and we hear about exactly what happened with the town of Kowloon. It was a lovely city, only to turn into a land of violent crimes and killings for some unknown reason, and the government wanted to destroy the city at all costs for some other unknown reason. A large number of people had been making reports to the police about visiting Kowloon, even though the city was destroyed 5 years before and doesn't exist. Then this happens.
Well, I mean, it's one of the worst places.
I hate the creators of this game. I thought I finally escaped Granny. Now, after that monstrous amount of story, we have finally made it to a new section of the series, the theory section, as an honour to MatPat. So, now many people have probably made this theory, but when I played this is what I thought had happened. 5 years ago, China had demolished Kowloon after a large spike in their crime and murder rates, which doesn't make much sense why an entire city would have such an incredible spike in violence. Throughout the story, we see different notes around talking about what happened in Kowloon before the destruction of the city, with notes in the neighbour's house talking to the strange gas leaks from the pipes, which we had seen earlier in the start of the game, and the story that the hidden child had told of the horrors in Kowloon happening with her family and everyone else around them. The theory I and most likely others have is that in China they were doing some form of human experiments in this specific city, testing some form of drug on them, as has happened in the past in real life scenarios, with things such as placebos or experimental drugs are being tested on people. Maybe not in this sort of level, but you know what I mean. China realised that this pathogen or drug that they had released to Kowloon was causing insanity and psychopathy, causing violent crime rates to increase exponentially, and calls for the destruction of Kowloon immediately, and due to the desolation and neglect of Kowloon, it would be reasonable to suspect that they had used some form of bomb to destroy the town as quickly as possible. The town is now unsafe for human life and cannot be entered within a certain radius due to the chemical or pathogen leaking across a large distance, meaning that the government can't work on the land until all of the substance has cleared, which is why I believe that the government are experimenting on humans whether or not they can enter Kowloon, or whether it's still dangerous by putting up these house listings for Kowloon. Short exposure to the substance, which is what we experience, doesn't cause insanity or psychopathy, but does cause violent hallucinations and random faints attributed to the hallucinations, most likely due to stress-related symptoms. So, as a first proper theory, let me know how I did. I'd really like some feedback so I can improve my craft, so comment down below your theories and review my theory, and let's move on. We have once again made it to the final verdict. I personally would give Welcome to Kowloon a solid 8 out of 10 for me. It's a horror game that has immense impact through atmosphere and jump scares, creates a brilliant storyline and room for theory crafting and lore diving, and it's only let down by a couple things such as like the length of playtime and occasional audio not matching with the game, or some weird visual choices like with Buster's eyes. But the only very small details I'm bringing up are pretty much insignificant, and the only reason why I mentioned playtime is because I wish that there was more of this game because I loved playing it, even though I said at the end I'm glad it's over. The game was overall really enjoyable and I'd highly recommend playing it yourself if you want to have some fun, but that is all from me. Let's move on to the outro. Thank you, and thank you again for watching this video. I really do appreciate the support, and if you made it to this point, congrats on making it through the Yap train. But anyways, make sure to like, subscribe, and if you enjoyed the video, join my Twitch to watch my live streams where we will soon start doing some horror games and analog horror reactions, as well as a ton of variety games as well. Follow me on TikTok for my clips and best moments, join the Discord to suggest me some games and to help me grow my community, and finally comment down below what you want to see next. That's all from me, guys. I really do appreciate it. In a bit, people.